Cloverpelt sits apart from their clan, but for all of their appearances of despondency, there are tumultuous workings in the riot of their mind. Ever since Condorfern's death, the world has been outlined in darkness. Of course, the cloying scent of fear and blood in camp, a fresh mix of copper and sailor rust, does nothing to improve Cloverpelt's mood. Shortburn's psychosis seems to have worsened. Much of the clan has lost their conviction, acting out orders from no more than empty habit and the memory of fear. As for the once formidable leader, she has retreated to her den, and not even a whisker has been seen for some nights. Every day, morning and night, fresh kill is left before the den's entrance, and the only sign that the leader still lives is the fact that these offerings regularly disappear. Not even the medicine cat has dared to approach of late, after one visit in the middle of the night that he refused to speak of again. In Shortburn's absence, the clan has lost any remaining structure. Cloverpelt, Shortburn's second in command, has let the cats fall into disarray. They had no desire to keep everything running per Shortburn's twisted directions. Without any sort of guidance for acceptable behavior, the clan has turned in on itself. Scuffles dominate the clearing over the smallest disputes or semblance of weakness. Some cats wounded or even killed without repercussion in these bloody battles. With Shortburn's catatonic state, others have felt secure enough to depart the clan, with fear remaining outweighing fear of the unknown. Many such refugees are the few with kits, the families departing for their own safety lest they get caught up on the wrong side of an outburst. While violent, these outbreaks have left the clan paranoid and exhausted of the fighting. Cloverpelt's own kits have had to mature faster than most their age. Cloverpelt can see it in their young, round eyes, an edge of hardness and world weariness that Cloverpelt would have given their own life to prevent not so long ago. Now, with the light of Cloverpelt's life gone, however, they feel only a grim satisfaction that even a small revenge of robbing the innocence of youth has been metered against Shortburn and her kin. Bitterness that Cloverpelt does little to mask underlies all of their family's interactions, and they can see it in the kids' eyes and the understanding that on some level, Cloverpelt's hatred encompasses them too. Burnt Kid especially feels this every time some cat says their name. One morning, Cloverpelt looks and realizes that there are only a few loyal warriors left in camp. Most have some ties to Shortburn directly, like Freeze Ice and Shypelt. Others remain out of bought obligations, like Cliffdapple, or selfish reasonings of wanting to be a part of whatever is to come next. With no one left with experience to defend the clan, Cloverpelt is not surprised when one day, rogues and once exiled members of EclipseClan simply stalk into the middle of camp. Cloverpelt's own mother, Peekfur, is at the head of the procession. She looks around with disdain, one lip curled at the mess of thin, bedraggled, scarred cats and bloodstained clearing. Have we devolved into savages? She inquires. The Eclipse Clan I sought to join was meant to offer some protections from the concerns of lone rogues. This looks as barbaric as if some dog were to run the clan. Cloverpelt cannot bring themselves to stir the intrusion, though some cats advance with arched backs and perked fur. Cloverpelt can see that even the most bloodthirsty of them don't have the heart to fight anymore. The rogues' pelts are sleeker than theirs, and they easily outnumber the clan cats. If they had come for honorable battle, the rogues would be sorely disappointed. Well, Peekfur demands, does no cat have the heart to answer me? Finally, Cloverpelt set forward. What do you want, mother? At her words, Cloverpelt sees her kit start and look longingly at the newcomer, perhaps hoping for some replacement of what was lost. I wanted to see if the flea-bitten foxheart has had the good sense to die yet, but like all who subsist only on rage, I would not be surprised to see her outlive us all. Therefore, I wanted to be here to ensure that I could be fortunate enough to help her along to whatever darkness awaits her before she can hurt anyone else. The cats around Peekfur murmur in agreement. At the proclamation, the few members of EclipseClan glance at one another, sussing. To Cloverpelt's surprise, none of them stepped forward in Shortburn's defense, not even her own remaining kits. Well, Peekfur's strong voice rang out across the clearing. Help us, stand aside, or fight. I have no inclination for any of your options, for no matter what, the outcome will remain the same. The only difference is how long before it is done. After another moment's pause, Peekfur's voice rings out in disbelief. Would no one defend your leader? No, Cloverpelt finally sets forward to speak for them all. Many cats have been hurt by Shortburn's decisions. None of us had the strength to fight her. For our own safety, we simply stand aside. But know this, if you go there and fight Shurn and you fail in your duties, it is us who will suffer for not properly trying to defend her. Peekfur's hackles rose and she hissed in contempt. Not strong enough? How many warriors must you need to kill a crippled old cat? Peekfur's eyes narrowed in thought. Or do you mean that you are too weak of the mind to recognize what is wrong and what is right? Cloverpelt's tail twitched, uneasy with the accusation, and yet they could not bring themselves to fully deny it. Peekfur finally hissed with disgust. Would that I brought you with me all those moons ago. I would not have raised such a coward as you. Cloverpelt hissed at the insult, but a movement out of the corner of their eye sought their rebuke in their throat. Burntpaw stepped out of the shadows, their black pelt bringing them camouflage that most cats could only envy. Greetings, I am Burntpaw. I am Cloverpelt's kit. Is it true that you are Cloverpelt's mother? Peekfur's fury softened somewhat as she touched noses with Burntpaw. Burntpaw. Yes, it is true. I regret my mistake of leaving Cloverpelt and their siblings before, but I am glad to have met you. One by one, Cloverpelt's other kits set forward to touch noses with their grandmother. Cloverpelt watches emptily as they watch the kits interact with their mother with a sense of eager desperation, like little flowers that have been growing in the dark reaching hungrily for the sun. It is best you kits stay out of this grisly business. If none of your clanmates will stand for their leader, then we shall make our mission here swift but decisive. With a nod, Peekfur leaves a few of her followers to watch the warriors of EclipseClan for signs of treachery. With a flick of her tail, she signals the rest to follow her up the short cliff face of Shurn's den. Cloverpelt barely has time to consider their decision before they find themselves stepping forward to keep pace. Wait, Peekfur. I would go with you. Peekfur's only acknowledgement is a small twitch of her ears, and a couple of the other rogues fall in line around Cloverpelt as if she were more a prisoner than a member of the brigade. In their ranks, Cloverpelt recognized Boulderhawk, but there were a surprising number of strangers that Peekfur had recruited to this cause. Once all cats were outside of the mouth of the den, sniffing warily, Cloverpelt padded forward. The recessed den went deep into the face of the rock behind it, and there was no sign of Shurn anywhere in the shadows. The smell of old prey, waste, and disease wafted from the depths of the den, making Cloverpelt's lip curl with disgust. Stepping forward, Cloverpelt and Peekfur walked side by side, parent and kit reunited once more. As they stepped over the skeletons of old, unburied prey, Peekfur said softly, "I've heard about your actions." Cloverpelt was surprised to find the lack of judgment underlying Peekfur's mew, and felt the familiar prickle of guilt in their paws nonetheless. I did what I had to protect myself and my mate. It was the excuse that Cloverpelt had told themselves again and again. And not, Your Honor? After a few more steps of no response, Peekfur said, "No matter. I understand all too well how it feels to be enthralled by Shurn." Peekfur spoke with more than a hint of bitterness. The patrol then reached the end of the tunnel, wherein there was an ungroomed scrap of tortoiseshell fur. It smelled of sickness, waste, and blood. Shurn opened her amber eyes, watching the patrol with contempt. "Finally come to kill me, have you, Peekfur?" Peekfur dipped her head. "Shurn, my heart grieves, but this is what must be done. You have hurt my family too much now." "I never wanted to hurt you, Peekfur." Cloverpelt was shocked to hear sincerity in Shurn's raspy mew. "I would have given my tail to prevent what I had to do to you. But you left me no choice, truly. We could have been happy together, you and I. I've seen what your happiness looks like, and I would never find solace in it. Save your pretty words for the escort to darkness. You shall have no effect on me." Shurn rose creakily from her nest then, an angry hiss as intimidating as a viper's building from her stout frame. One of her back legs, heavily scarred and wrapped in vines from her latest injury, sat tucked up against her body. Despite her age, lack of fitness, and broken leg, she still balanced easily and had the ready posture of a cat used to battle. Pretty words are better than ugly scars, though both can inspire the same effect on weakling fools. I have long since craved for this moment, to prove my position once and for all. I created this clan. I am its heart and blood. Without me, all of those useless cowards are nothing. The Eclipse Clan will cease to exist. Peekfur hissed. The eclipses are meant to pass, Shurn. Yours has gone on long enough. It is time to once more feel the light of the sun. With a wave of her tail, one of the warriors rushed the old cat. Not attacking me yourself, eh? Shortburn's voice rose into a mad screech, her mouth widening so Cloverpelt could see all of her cracked and broken yellow teeth. At least you have some sense in your old age. Shortburn lashed out at the warrior, deftly using their own momentum to send them crashing into the wall behind her. She pivoted gracefully on her one good back leg to accomplish the task, clearly anticipating the warrior would target her glaring weak point. The rogue turned to continue their attack but paused strangely. Cloverpelt could see a thin scratch on the Tom's neck, but it was barely bleeding. Hardly a wound that would stop a battle-hardy warrior in their tracks. And yet to Cloverpelt's shock and horror, the Tom collapsed, seizing. Foam speckled his mouth as his body racked again and again. The tremor stopped and the Tom lay motionless, eyes dimming. The patrol looked on in horror as Shortburn cackled in mad glee. Does anyone else care to taste my claws? Maybe your death will be just as slow and painful. Hissing, the cavern descended into chaos as Peekfur and her remaining rogues rushed the old cat, seeking to overpower her with their numbers and agility. They were impeded by the close quarters, however, and Cloverpelt watched with dread and fascination as rogue after rogue fell to what should have been minor scrapes that Shortburn managed to inflict any time some cat advanced on her. Settling into a hunter's crouch, Cloverpelt stalked to Shortburn's back, thankful for her dark pelt that made her no more than a shadow dancing on the walls. Peekfur and Shortburn stood face to face, fur puffed out and both panting as they regarded one another. They exchanged something so softly that Cloverpelt could not hear, and then descended in a ball of teeth and claws. Cloverpelt had been well trained for the situation by Shortburn's own vicious demands, but Cloverpelt had to choose their moment carefully. There would be consequences if they moved too soon or too late. When Peekfur managed to kick out Shortburn's only good back leg, Cloverpelt pounced on Shortburn's back, clamping their jaws around the older cat's throat. Cloverpelt closed their eyes and held on as the struggles weakened, the raspy wheezing slowing and then stopping in their throat. Cloverpelt held on, trying not to scent the underlying smells of condor fern on Shortburn's fur, a familial similarity that Shortburn's neglect had failed to fully wash out. When Cloverpelt could move once more, they looked at the devastation surrounding them. Rogues lay, foaming at the mouth and twitching in the close confines of the den. Peekfur lay, sides heaving, covered in shallow scratches that Cloverpelt knew would kill her. Peekfur understood this as well, but did not seem bitter. Do not mourn me, my kit. I have failed you, and this was long overdue in my quest to make things right for you. I hope that you'll be able to find happiness with your clanmates and your kits. Cloverpelt watched, empty, as Peekfur's legs began to shake and she began seizing from whatever mysterious forces Shortburn had used. Cloverpelt sat, alone, as the air slowly went cool around her and the sun began to descend. Finally, Cloverpelt grabbed Shortburn's scruff and dragged the old leader to the front of the cavern. At one point, when they stopped to rest, Cloverpelt noticed that Shortburn's claws were stained with more than the rogue's blood. Sniffing carefully, they realized that there was a remnant of some herb or berry in her claws. The paranoid old cat had found some last way to torment her betrayers, even in death. Cloverpelt dragged the corpse all the way down the rockfall to the clearing, where many pairs of eyes watched her dispassionately. Even the rogue's anxiety faded to dispassion when they realized that Peekfur and their other friends were not coming back down. Cloverpelt dropped the formidable old cat at the feet of her clanmates. Shortburn has fallen. Cloverpelt's voice broke and they started again. Shortburn has fallen. She felled all but myself who dared oppose her. There's some trickery I do not yet understand. She was formidable, but in the end met the fate she deserved. It was death berries, Cougar Speckle said. His voice was soft, but in the silent clearing, it carried to every cat's ears. She specifically requested I bring her all of the death berries I collected. Cloverpelt inclined their head at the medicine cat's words. It was cunning and cruel, perfect for Shortburn. Cloverpelt picked their next words carefully. Eclipse Clan is done. I have no desire to continue Shortburn's work, nor to lead any of you. Remembering their mother's words, Cloverpelt added, Eclipses were always meant to be temporary. It It is time that we feel the light of the sun again, and hope that it chases away the darkness that Shortburn's wounds have inflicted on us all. Before I disband the clan, however, there is one wrong I wish to make right. Cloverpelt's gaze sought out one particular cat. Burnt Kit, I have done you a disservice, more than the others, not once but twice now. The first when I named you to appease the whims of the tyrant, and the second when I kept your name as such to try to hurt her. Cloverpelt averted their gaze. It was not my position to play with your life and identity like that. Like my mother before me, I have failed my kits, and I must do what I can to try to make it right, even if it is far too late. Please, step forward. Burnt Kit hesitated, but their siblings nudged him into the last dying ray of the sunlight. With whatever power I have invested in me, I call upon the breeze that runs through my whiskers, the life of the mouse that died to give me a meal this morning, the light of the sun behind us, the stars as they watch over us, the shared blood that runs in our two veins, and I shall rename you to Dream, for I can only offer you dreams for an uncertain future. I wish that you will find happiness away from this darkness. I hope that you can forgive me my errors, and I wish that you will grow unhampered by the setbacks I've afforded you, and so much more. The clan muttered at the simple name. Cloverpelt continued, I've chosen to forego Shortburn's naming habits. All cats should have a place regardless of their status, and you shall someday realize who and what you are. Maybe then you can get a final suffix. Until then, however, I hope that you can be free to choose that for yourself. Dream looked up, tail twitching with repressed emotion. Cloverpelt knew that they would have a long way to go to fully healing the wounds that they inflicted, but they hoped that this was a good enough start. The rest of you may go if you wish. I will try to recover this sorrowful place and fill it with new memories, such that none may know the tragedy that came before. I would offer any who wish to stay a sort of collaboration, respect, and peace. The first peace we shall know since I was born. After a pause in which the cats came to recognize the dismissal, the group began to stir. To Cloverpelt's surprise, only a few cats left after their announcement. Most of these were the shades of the past, too thin to properly withstand the shifting winds. Shortburn's own kits decided to stay, and for the first time their brows seemed clear of confusion, uncertainty, and bitterness. They, for once, seemed their age. The rogues, too, decided to stay. Cloverpelt set the cats to work preparing all of the bodies for respectful burial, even Shortburn's. She could not lie in any place of honor, and her grave would likely go forgotten, but Cloverpelt wanted to afford the old cat some respect. It would be a good precedent as the clan sought to better itself. Grief and remembrances took vigil for the night, and in the morning the grisly work was complete. Scars of the conflict remained, and would remain, in the hollow in the hearts and minds of the clan cats who stayed, but for the first time, Cloverpelt had hope. Traveling by themselves the following morning, Cloverpelt felt as if for the first time, the pleasantness of the sun on their back. They heard the melodious chirping of the birds. Climbing to the rim of the hollow, Cloverpelt overlooked the forest that they called home. Truly, they would honor the feeling of the sun on them forevermore, no longer tainted by the shadow of the eclipse. It was in that moment Cloverpelt knew what the name of the new clan should be. SunClan. They allowed themselves a small smile at their victory.